What is going on, everybody? I'm BobbyFi, back with my man Eric Tabor. We are going to be doing a FanDuel lineup build, talk about our favorite plays at each position. It's an interesting slate. We've got some great guys to spend up for, and oddly enough, on FanDuel, there aren't these such incredible standout values like we've had in the past. There's a lot of good value guys, but not like nobody amazing. So we'll get into it and figure out how we can try and fit in some of these studs. Sheets, what's your first thoughts on looking at FanDuel versus DraftKings?
Yeah, so it's going to be the similar type of decisions, because you're going to have between Giannis and Harden between Giannis and Harden, two really, really smash plays, and then you have to figure out what you're going to do with LeBron and or Davis, and then the hottest player in the NBA who could show up at 5% ownership. So it's going to be similar to DraftKings as far as that goes, but like you said, it's a little harder in that there's not a lot of multi-position eligibility over here. Well, there isn't any. So I think you could use a little of that over on DraftKings today, where FanDuel makes it a little harder, which means that, I don't know, maybe you get some bad chalk in some of these positions. And I think that's what I'm looking at right now, depending on how ownership kind of shakes out. But based on these early ownership projections, what I'm looking at, there might be some bad chalk that you can get away from.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Maybe so. I certainly, starting with point guard, we can get into that because I think that, you're going to have a very high amount of ownership on a guy like Terry Rozier. I like Terry Rozier tonight. I also like the idea of, having somebody to run back. But I certainly think that he could definitely fail his chalk at 6,200 when you have that kind of heavy chalk on someone. So who are some of the other guys you're looking at?
Yeah, so I had basically 5 guys who I liked at point guard, and they're all kind of equal. Now, again, I'm leaving out Lillard of this mess, so we're going to get back to him, all right? But the 5 kind of like guys that project well, because Lillard's just looking too expensive, but we can talk about whether that means anything in a minute, are going to be, like you said, Rozier. But Rozier is honestly like you want to know the truth, maybe my 5th favorite. I don't know. So I would start with, with Austin Rivers, okay, as what's going to be probably pretty chalky value. He looks to be one of my favorite plays. Then I would go to Jamal Murray if I knew he was going to get full minutes. He looks okay, but again, he's probably going to be owned somewhat as well. And the other 3 guys are going to be Bledsoe and actually 2 guys are Bledsoe and Lonzo Ball. So what I would do is I would honestly, this is the way I look at it, is I can't really distinguish between all 5 of those guys as far as who I like the most because they all look just kind of okay. I would honestly just toss Rozier. And I know what you're saying, that if you want to run back, if you want to play hard, it's a good idea to run it back with Rozier. But the way I feel about it is that I'd love to avoid running chalk back with chalk if at all possible. But again, that's the way it works, right? It's one of the reasons he is chalk is because people want to run it back with him. And he certainly does look like a decent enough price. But I would probably try to get away and either go with Ball and Murray or Ball and Bledsoe or Bledsoe and Murray. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in for now Bledsoe, just because, again, I didn't put him in on DraftKings. And I'm going to put him in for now. But I think any of those guys I could kind of see going into these spots.
Yeah, for me, I certainly I like the idea of playing Lillard over here, to be honest with you. I think there's enough other ways to get there, even though, again, you have to use some value. So at point guard, for me, I'm playing a lot of Lillard, to be honest, just because I want to ride this thing out. And if I'm not, if there's another middle tier guy I'd like, I think it would be Lonzo. I think that though mostly it's going to end up being a spend up and spend down for, either Lillard and Rivers, or what I might prefer actually, especially if you think the ownership's going to be lower, which I think it is I like Derrick White. Actually, I'm not sure where it's going to end up between the 2 of those 2, but I do like Derrick White at 4.3. It's just a little bit too cheap for the minutes he's getting. It's not the most exciting thing in the world, but if I'm going to spend up for Lillard, I sort of have to do something like that. Other than that, you can just basically convert that into Lonzo and Rozier or something along those lines if you want to. But unlike most nights, I'm not in love with this point guard position where we stand now with once we hear any other information.
If you get news that that Murray is fully healthy and fully playing, you want to be like instantly different, you could just play Lillard and Jamal Murray in the same game. And
I like that. I mean, the thing is that Jamal Murray, I don't know that he'll play all the minutes either, especially
yeah,
there's so many other guards and stuff. But I like the idea of it. I just think that I would, and he does like get up for these things. So that is kind of an interesting way to go. I think if you just play Lillard, you're going to be more off the board than you should be because, like I said, this is not like a super strong position. Like everybody is sort of, I like Rozier, I'm fine. You know what I mean? I like Lonzo, fine. But I'm not like I need to get these guys in. So it makes me just want to jump up to play a less owned Lillard, and then you can just sort of play even the most chalky guy if you want to because you've already differentiated. And we're going to find other ways to differentiate further on because there's some guys I like at small forward that might be a little bit different.
And the other thing we talked about when we talked about DraftKings is that one way you might want to be different also is I presume Rivers is going to be pretty popular on FanDuel as well. So probably maybe not as much so. But I know people are going to play Rivers maybe so they can get in Harden. If you want to avoid Harden, maybe you could play Rivers. So if you want to do a build with like Lillard, Rivers, and then maybe Giannis or something like that. Mm-hmm. Or God forbid you get another big guy in. You would get LeBron in too. I don't know. But maybe we could talk about that later.
Yeah. And then, it's interesting. At shooting guard, we have the mega chalk in one spot, but then there's one other great play in Devontae Graham. But who else do we really feel that we need to plug in? I don't think anybody's going to feel that way about anyone. So should spread the ownership out, which makes me just love our guy, DeMar DeRozan. How about you? What are your first shooting guard thoughts?
Yeah, so my shooting guards, like you said, I mean, the two chalkiest guys are going to be Harden by a lot, and then Devontae Graham. And Devontae Graham's been cheap and chalky on FanDuel for a couple of weeks now, and it's really not gotten anybody anywhere. And I feel as though again it's a little too easy to just put these two together. You know what I mean? Like I don't think I'm going to go that route. I don't think I'm just going to go hard and run back with Graham if you're going to get the two chalkiest guys at the position. So I'm probably going to attempt to deviate in some way. And the two guys that I'm interested in deviating from with, so to speak, one is going to be from that Giannis game, and that's going to be maybe Drew Holiday at 7,500. He's going to be, much lesser owned than these two. Mm-hmm. And if you run him with Giannis, then you're getting similar correlation of two lower owned guys than going with, say, the Graham Harden thing. So Drew Holiday is one way I can go. And the other way I might go, again, and I guess it makes a little sense when considering I kind of like Bledsoe in the point guard spot. Maybe just from what I'm looking at, they might be just underpricing these Milwaukee guys in general, because I could actually see myself going to another guy I never played, which might be Middleton from that Milwaukee game. So this is I don't know what it is. I guess maybe the way the projections I'm looking at them, they're just kind of leading me to these Milwaukee guys a little bit, because again, I try to avoid playing Middleton. I try to avoid playing Bledsoe when I'm considering Giannis, but they both look to be kind of decent and they both look to be lower owned. So instead of going the Harden Graham route, I might go with something different, whether either be fading Harden entirely with something like this or maybe using Harden with one of these guys. But like you said, it depends on what you do a point guard. Like if you're going to play Lillard, spend up there, you're different already. I don't know how fancy you need to be elsewhere, but those are just my initial thoughts at shooting guard.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, that's true. You could also play down and pay for Ben McLemore with Harden. I know that.
Yeah, sure.
There's no problem with that. I think that I'm leaning on doing that in a lot of lineups. I do like Harden obviously tonight, but I also think that if you wanted to skip Harden and just play a DeMar DeRozan with Drew Holiday is a really, really good high floor, high upside play. Don't you think?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit on DraftKings when we came up with DeRozan, and DeRozan's significantly better value on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah,
so.
and I mean, like the thing that I like about both he and Holiday here is I feel like there's a high floor, not just a ceiling. I don't feel like it's even that dangerous. You're really betting against the Harden 75 or more, and even then, these guys offer enough upside where they can get you there. So I'm sort of starting to maybe sway a little bit, just because maybe in my big buy-ins you don't need to make that pivot and get away from Harden where I really like him, but maybe in the larger field tournaments, doing just a build with Lillard at point guard and then have DeRozan and Holiday at shooting guards, you can really be different on that. And you have a pretty high floor and certainly a very high ceiling if you do that. You're not even betting on Lillard really to outscore Harden. You're just betting on the other shooting guards to make up for the Harden versus the McLemores, the Malik Monks, who I don't feel as great about over here. But I am certainly open, especially to McLemore, just because that price is so low. And then, look, if you're not going to play Lillard at point guard, you can take a shot on McCollum here at shooting guard. I actually don't think that's a bad decision, but I probably won't end up going there. I just don't see anybody else actually doing it either. I think the way to do it is Harden and one of the guys we mentioned, or even Middleton, and I think I would lean Holiday to DeRozan for upside versus Middleton. But I do like the idea. I think Middleton's a fine play on his own. I just sort of prefer Holiday and DeRozan.
Well, what you could do with Holiday again is you could pair Holiday with Giannis if you want, or you could go ahead and pair DeRozan with LeBron. You know, so like we were talking about on DraftKings, you were really stressing this is you could really try to find some neat correlations. And now on Fanduel, it's becoming, I don't want to say easier, but a little more obvious to find some good correlations that are not going to be that as highly owned as some of the others. So I think that's where I might end up going actually.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move over to small forward, where I've got a few takes that I like quite a bit.
All right. So first of all, the kind of, I want to say the obvious, but the kind of the obvious chalk / good plays are going to be Giannis for sure.
I don't think he's going to be that chalky. How about that for a hot take?
Yeah, maybe then. But I guess I got to start with Derrick Gordon, right? So you're going to have at the top, you're going to have LeBron, and then lesser owned would be Giannis. But I do think that Derrick Gordon is going to be, he's certainly going to be chalky. And then I guess with these other guys, Carmelo's getting ownership also. I'm just not into Carmelo right now until Lillard gives up the ball once or twice, which I haven't quite seen yet. So I do like all that. I mean, I actually like Giannis the most. I mean, I like Giannis more than LeBron. He's in a bigger total. The spread is close enough, and I think he has minutes upside from this 30 minutes or whatever they're projecting him for. So I do actually like Giannis more than LeBron. If LeBron's going to be higher owned, I think it's kind of a no-brainer for me that I would go for Giannis over LeBron. But the guys that – I had to pick one guy that's kind of, I want to say, a little off the board that I could play at the small forward position is the guy that you brought up on DraftKings, that pretty badass tournament play over there, and maybe won't be as low owned over here, but I might take a shot maybe at Will Barton at the small forward position. So that's what I would do if I wanted to get off of Gordon. I mean, you play Gordon and Giannis, you play Gordon, LeBron. What fun is that? You know what I mean? You can. I think that you can go off the board a little bit and play Will Barton and screw you, Eric Gordon, with Harden back. It's kind of tough, but he's still really, really cheap. But I think Will Barton could be an interesting way to go.
Yeah, so I like Will Barton a lot over here and over there.
Oh, wow, okay.
I'm into Will Barton. But the thing is interesting is I like Barton or Carmelo as the guys to pay down for. And I don't mind the idea of Bridges. If somehow Washington is out again, I don't mind Bridges. And then Eric Gordon is a terrific play. Obviously, he's going to be the shock, but he's 4.9, and it's a very strong play. It's probably a little bit chalkier than I'd want to go, but I'm okay because I've already made some other pivots that I talked about. I really think Barton and Giannis, though, will be my main combination over there. I do like LeBron. I think there's a way you could play LeBron and Giannis, but I feel like I'd rather take the other shots on the other guys a little bit more, partially because I actually kind of like these other pivots at small forward. I really like Will Barton, like I said, and I think Carmelo, Eric Gordon, and Bridges could all be excellent for their prices. Not really looking a ton of other places. If I was, it would be Brandon Ingram. But for the most part, it's just going to be those guys for me. And I really think it's the best, the optimal for me in terms of tournament upside feels to me like Giannis and Barton, in part because I am playing Lillard at point guard so much. So I am worried about this. This is the time where I could see Lillard giving the ball back up. Like when guys go back, you saw Rondo the other night in Sacramento. When they go back to places they used to be, and Carmelo obviously spent a lot of time in Denver. I feel like if there was a time he got off 15 shots the other night anyway. He's pretty well rested. He took the one day off against the Lakers. So I could see Carmelo having a big performance tonight that you might really want him. So if you wanted to get really crazy, you could skip LeBron and Giannis and play Carmelo with Will Barton or Eric Gordon, something like that.
Yeah, this is gonna be interesting because as you get to power forward and center, you're not gonna find a lot of you said I don't think. Actually, you might actually. I was gonna say you're not gonna find a lot of Chiefs, but you actually might be able to. So let's see where that brings us. Not as much as power forward, but maybe at center you might be able to take a shot. All right, so let's do it. Let's look at power forward where you're gonna get a I presume a kind of a chalky Zion. As a matter of fact, I mean, my first look at power forward was kind of annoying to me because the guys that I liked the most were the guys that were the highest owned. So you're looking at, if you want to pay all the way up for Anthony Davis, you could do that. But the best value that's going to pop is someone like Zion. But I'm more inclined, again, if I'm going to do a build where I play someone like Drew, I'll probably get off of Zion maybe a little bit. Not that they can't get there together, right? But I maybe I'll get off Zion a little bit. He certainly looks fine, but just kind of chalky. I did mention Derrick Favors in pre-show. Talk about he always seems to get ownership, and he hasn't really seemed to get anywhere since Zion's been kind of ramped up a little bit. So the guys I guess I would try to play, and these are nothing special, but maybe PJ Tucker at 4,800, and then I'll let you take credit for this, but maybe pay down and play some PJ Washington and hope that he gets a lot of small ball minutes against Houston.
Mm-hmm. I like PJ Washington over here. Also, I think the ownership's going to be low on him, so I'm interested. I think Aldridge is fair enough, but I think Anthony Davis is where you want to be looking a lot, especially if you're not going to be using LeBron at small forward. If you've got the money for it, that's where I would go. Again, with Zion tonight, I'm fine with him, but I just say it's a little bit of a weird situation to try and take a chalky guy in, even though the matchup's good in terms of pace, it's not literally that, foul trouble. There's going to be times a team that can protect the rim a little bit. I just feel a little bit worried about how it works out for him in this matchup, depending on how much he has to play against Giannis, I guess is where I'm at. Again, this is going to be a fun one to watch, but I do like him. I just think that I prefer the Davis route if I was going to go that way. I'm trying to do something really different at power forward, though. I liked your Marvin Williams call, and I thought it was interesting. And if we had no Washington, if we hear Washington's out, which I think he's going to play, but if we hear he's out especially, I think this might be a game where you could see Marvin Williams and Marvin Williams, Trey Lyles, just to get completely off the board. Take the no percent owned guys, get your hope for 45 between the two of them, and you can do whatever you want elsewhere.
I have some weird feeling also that if they announce PJ Washington out, I really don't even think that Marvin Williams would just rocket ship to chalk. I really don't think you even would.
No. Oh, not even a little bit. No, you're right. And you know what? Kyle Kuzma at 4.2 is certainly in play. I don't feel so exciting, but he's a guy who can shoot himself into more minutes and a lot of production. So not a great fun position. The chalky PJ Tucker has me looking at these other guys. Although I like Tucker better probably, but I just think that I would rather take a shot on a lower owned. In fact, I actually think that heads up between he and Washington tonight, I would have very, very, very close. And I think that I would give Washington the edge. So I would like a lower owned Washington at a slightly higher price than PJ Tucker. But yeah, not the funnest position. If all else fails, just I think you could fall back on Aldridge to be have a fairly high floor in this matchup. And he plays well in tough matchups too, by the way. So I actually think Aldridge makes sense, but priorities would be to try and get Davis in if you can. And if not, I think that you're looking at some of the PJ Washington's LMAs. Obviously, we mentioned Tucker, and then my long shot, Trey Lyles and Marvin Williams in the same lineup. If you want to just go completely off the board and pay up elsewhere.
I'll tell you, it's so hard to get Lillard in that he's going to be.
Yep.
He's going to be really low owned, man. If you get Lillard lineups right, I mean, you could. I mean, that's the whole tournament. You can win the whole thing. Yeah,
it's just, again, I don't love the situation. You have a team that really guards the one pretty well, with or without Murray. So it's tricky, but it's just Damian Lillard has just been doing this over and over and over again. So it just feels weird, when no one is chasing to not, you know what I mean? It feels like not chasing is the mistake at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so at the center position, it seems to be that they're wanting you to go one of two ways, right? They're if you can make it work, to try to get Jokic in at 10-4, or if you want to get these other guys in to try to get in somebody cheap. So the two guys that I presume, I guess so, are going to be getting that kind of cheap ownership are going to be Cody Zeller and Dwight Howard.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine. Actually, I couldn't even speculate who would be higher. I guess because McGee's could be a play that maybe Howard's not as highly owned as Zeller. But then again, same thing with I don't know. I think both those guys are going to take ownership, Zeller and Howard. So if you wanted to pay down, which a lot of people are going to want / have to do, I think that those two guys are going to be owned, and I guess they look fine. So I don't think I'm going to get up to Jokic with pretty much any of my builds, just because I like these other plays a little bit more.
Mm.
But my two pivots, what I would consider, if you want, I got three for you. One, if you're going to get some Milwaukee stacks going on, you might want to try maybe Brook Lopez, paying up a little more from from the cheaper guys. So maybe he gets a little bit ignored. The other two guys, again, you're a little different price range. Is we could argue about this again, but if Hassan Whiteside's going to be low owned again, I'm gonna again, if he's going to be low owned, I might try him. I don't know if I'm going to have the money for him. The other guy is that I just kind of brought up is if Dwight Howard becomes like really, really popular, why is he that much better than McGee? You'll have to explain that to me.
Probably more of a minutes floor and ceiling, but I actually like the JaVale McGee call over here as a little bit of a just with the ownership so much different. Like there's no reason he wouldn't outscore Howard, and then there's a way that Zeller gets phased out, so where he can actually outscore both those guys.
Yeah.
He also can get going and put up like 30 in 20 minutes. So I actually like the idea of the McGee call, but I think that I'm still leaning Howard. I prefer Howard. And I prefer, honestly, playing Zeller over here to me makes a lot more sense than it does on draft. I really don't like this center position. Jokic would actually make a lot of sense to me over here, but again, I just like too many other plays better. So the difference is, though, like on DraftKings, I would be comparing Jokic versus the same price LeBron or something like that. That's not even where I'm at over here because the small forward position also has Giannis and some other plays that I like. The center position really doesn't have that many other ones that I like. So I think Jokic is the better play on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings by a significant amount. And then
Say that again.
I think much better play on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. Because Jokic.
Okay.
Because of the position scarcity, really basically the only other guy you can play and feel comfortable with is Cody Zeller. And potentially you could argue for Whiteside, but at that price, I would say that that's not even one of them either. He's the only one you can feel good about along with Zeller. So when that happens, I just feel like, and he's not going to have the crazy ownership maybe, I would be willing to take a shot here. I don't know that Dwight Howard's ownership is going to be as high as it's been projected for right now. I do have some interest here, but I just a little bit wary of that situation. So I would try and lean towards just the raw points of the position. And I feel like Zeller, even getting you 20 is not going to kill you. Jokic getting you 45 or 40 is not going to kill you because the position is so weak, in my opinion, today. That's just sort of where I'm at.
This might be not the hottest take in the world because it's only 4 games, but the more I'm looking at, I think you're going to want one of those 3 Charlotte guys, whether it be Zeller or PJ Washington or Marvin Williams.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly which one, but I think that one of those guys, depending on game flow, depending how small they go, I think you can make a case for all 3 of those. So I might, if I do 3 lineups, just do 1 and 1, 1 and 1, 1 and the other, something like that. I think that's I think that one of those guys kind of has to get there. You know what I mean?
I would think that if Houston was playing anyone over 6'6", I don't know who they certainly don't need them to match up with anybody on Houston. That's for sure.
Well, that's my whole point. My point is that if they don't,
that's why none of them can get there potentially, because like the potential is that Miles Bridges plays the center.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Okay. Like that's a legitimate potential. Although I think you're likely right. I'm leaning those guys the way that you're leaning about those guys, but I don't know that. I mostly like Zeller over here because again, position scarcity, and I feel comfortable with him getting 24 minutes, even if they do go smaller. They're not going to like just completely phase him out of the lineup. I do want to point out the Trey Lyles play being a little bit better than people think, and I just want to point out why.
Trey Lyles?
Yeah, so Trey Lyles got sat down because who was it who got hot for them in that game other than Podol against Utah? That was the game where everybody else was out for San Antonio, including Aldridge, and we thought Lyles would get the bump. Oddly enough, he's been playing in the mid-20s in all the other games that they've played, which have been the games with everybody back. And here you have another team that likes to go big in the Lakers, where maybe his minutes are more secure alongside LMA than they are alongside Podol, which is what I've taken from it. So I think that you see him playing maybe, if he plays those mid-20s minutes, even getting 18 or 17 fantasy points is not a bad scenario for Trey Lyles tonight. Like, you need to do something different in some spots on DraftKings. And I just think like getting a guy to who could easily 5X along with, I don't love the Williams as much, but I think Williams has more of a ceiling. But I do think if you play those two guys together and they get you 45, you're going to be looking at a pretty solid day unless like Davis puts up 75, unless Zion puts up 60. I think you're looking at a pretty good day because you can do whatever you want at some other positions, like paying for Jokic, Barton and Giannis and either Harden or Lillard or both. Like you can do a lot of things if you pay all the way down at power forward.
Well, let's not leave this idea for just a second. About how the Lakers are going to play. So if this kind of sounds silly, but if Pirtle starts,
why would Pirtle start?
I don't know. What? But why? Don't the Lakers play kind of big? I mean, who would?
Lyles.
Okay, so they would start Lyles over Pirtle.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, he starts. I'm guessing they wouldn't change anything.
Okay.
Let me see real quick and just see the.
So they only started Pirtle when LMA was out. Okay.
I mean, as far as that's what they've always done. But
that's fine.
There's always that chance that I missed maybe one thing that's happened because it's not like the minutes are pretty similar between. Yeah, we've still got Lyles projected in the starting lineup. Look, it's not an exciting play, but we need where you want to get different and you can use some value. Getting 20 fantasy points out of Trey Lyles is definitely more in the realm of possibility. And I want to point out that his minutes projection of, let's see, we've got him projected at 19. And I've got two systems open, 19 and 17 minutes they've got him projected at. And to be honest with you, while there is that risk of him not getting on the court at certain points, like it's happened, he's had those 5-minute games, for the most part, he's a 20-plus minute a game guy or a 20-ish minute a game guy. So there's definitely a lot of upside on those potential minutes, especially against a big Laker team.
Yeah, I was trying to make a case for a gross Pirtle play, so.
I was like, if Pirtle was 3.5, we could have that conversation. I don't think.
No, I was just kind of like torn to the price being very similar to Zeller and all the other.
I was looking at it too beforehand. So,
I mean, for me, FanDuel, it really is about, if you want to go, with Lillard, it makes you instantly different.
Yeah,
but I don't know if I can do it.
I really want to, man. I don't love this being the matchup to do it in, but I still think I'm going to take that shot. It just starts to feel stupid at some point when you just keep going, oh, well, he's not going to do this again. And then he just keeps doing it. But I do think if there was one time you could see the Carmelo turnaround game instead. Just make Carmelo, if you're going to play some Lillard lineups, you're playing multiple lineups, throw some Carmelo lineups in there as well. Like not with Lillard necessarily, but especially not with Lillard actually. But definitely get some exposure to Carmelo because I have a feeling he might put up 40 fantasy points tonight.
Yeah. So, again, the way I look at these slates is again, the end of the night when someone wins and you say, okay, I can't believe X was X% owned and I didn't have him. I mean, you're visualizing this and you know that it's Lillard. You know what I mean? It's what I call the imagine concept because I'm not one of those imagine guys on Twitter, right? But I can visualize it. Is it going to be imagine not playing Lillard at 5%? You know what I mean? I see 100 people are going to be posting that, or is it going to be imagine paying 10-9 for Lillard when you could get the. So you got to visualize the imagine tweets coming in kind of along the way, and then I think of Lillard scoring 70 fantasy points. And Jack posting on there a big smiley face exclamation marks or something like that. So it's certainly possible, but you are going to have to beat some guys that are in really, really good spots. I mean, don't forget, you are going to have to maybe not have to beat them per se, but you have to deal with Harden with no players alongside. He's going to have a 50% usage rate in this game, and you're going to have to deal with Giannis against New Orleans in a 200 million point total. So it's not exactly so easy to say, oh, why didn't I just play Lillard? It's hard to get him in, which is why going to be 5%.
Yeah, exactly, and that's I'll take that. I'm actually writing Jack a message right now because we're supposed to be doing a show at some point soon. So.
Nice.
So anyway, we'll see you at the top of the leaderboard tonight, guys. I'll be doing a live show later. It's probably going to be heavily DraftKings focused, but I'll be answering questions. So get the QQs ready. Make sure you're following me on YouTube Live. I'm also going to be doing some Twitch shows coming up soon. I just haven't been doing them lately. Sheets can join me when he can. And we've got some new other sites that we're working with. So going to be a fun time overall. And Sheets, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I'm good.
All right, guys. Good luck tonight, and we will see you at the top of the leaderboards.